I'm Stacy with the Stacy Yesser Group, and welcome to our video blog. Today I am here with Josh Denbeaux. Hey Josh, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you doing, Stacy?
Good, thanks for visiting with us. Josh is actually a consumer rights attorney, and you might be asking yourself why. We have a consumer rights attorney on our video blog. However, Josh is actually an attorney that helps anybody with financial distress related to mortgages, for servicing, short sales, divorce, anytime that a homeowner is maybe questioning what to do, what not to do as it relates to some sort of financial distress. Is that fair?
It's fair enough.
Fair enough, okay.
I represent people in financial trouble, and that means sometimes people own houses and don't know what to do about it.
Right. And there's so many topics that we could dive into. And I just want to say for the record that if there's something we're brushing over that you want more information about, Josh's information is going to be below, and you should reach out to him and get some more information on all these topics. But for now, let's talk about a couple of situations that have come up with myself and my clients, one of which being divorce situations. So we unfortunately are representing a lot of families that are in a divorce situation when they're selling their house. And when they're selling the marital asset as a house, they have to sell the house, right? So they're in some sort of distress and this house has to be sold. That would qualify for a reason for them to come and speak with you. Would that be fair?
Well, except that when people come to me, I talk about their best options with regard to their house, which isn't necessarily telling them you have to sell right away.
Okay, so what's really funny about what Josh just said is when we were talking about doing this interview, Josh said, but Stacy, I might actually be telling people not to sell, and that's not necessarily what you might want me to say. And I said, no, that's exactly what I want you to, am I right? That's what I said to you.
Because you said that to me is why I've agreed to come and do this interview.
That's
because
fair.
I appreciated the fact that you're looking to provide services to your clients that aren't tailored to you, but are tailored to them, what they needed.
That's fair.
I appreciated that.
Thank you. I appreciate that you're saying that because that's definitely who we are. We want to give people information. And the interesting thing is that I met you because there is a client that we have in common, and I was able to speak to you, and I didn't even know somebody like Josh existed. And when I got off the phone with Josh, I said, I've now given you a cape and you're a superhero. I said, you are a protector of the people. I'm embarrassing you.
Hold on. I try to be a protector of the people. That's what I went to law school for, and I'm pretty good at it. But I'm going to give back the cape for a second because I don't win every case. But the reason why I enjoyed the conversation with you regarding that particular client is because I was able to show how the federal laws that govern mortgage servicing, right, which is the company that collects the mortgage payment on your loan, can be used to force banks to behave themselves. And this is a particularly niche area. There's only 2 attorneys in the state of New Jersey who do it. I'm one, and the other rents space for me in my office.
Okay, so I'm backing you up because you just said a whole lot of stuff. Okay, so you are saying that when a family is in financial distress, what I think you're saying is that the biggest challenge, as you see it, is that they really don't have all the information that they need or should have, and there are very few people who are going to give it to them and show them what their options are. And I think you just said that there's information that you have that sort of will be able to force the bank to behave.
Correct.
That's really interesting. Go ahead, let me hear that.
Let me unpack a lot of that.
Okay.
When I say force the bank to behave, that doesn't mean I can make the bank do exactly what I want them to do or my client wants them to do. But I can make the bank follow the rules. And because most people, and frankly most lawyers, and I'm not trying to knock attorneys because this is just a specialty area, most attorneys don't know what the rules that govern the lending and the mortgage servicing industry are.
Okay, so let's stop there. So let's dive into some specifics.
Sure.
We have a situation where a family there's been a reduction of income to the household. Maybe it's a divorce, maybe a job loss, and the family is seeking out advice, and they come and see me, and I tell them the truth. I say, this is probably the value, and they recognize, unfortunately, that they're probably in an upside down or short sale situation. Could you just explain what that means, first of all. What does it mean when an agent or realtor is saying you're in a short sale situation? What does that mean?
That means you owe more money against the mortgage loan than you're going to be able to extract from the sale of the property.
Okay. So they're talking to an agent and we're in a short sale situation, and what advice do you want to give them next?
The advice I want to give them next is to take a deep breath and stop and listen and see if they actually are in a short sale situation. Now, when most people in the industry, including all realtors, and this is not knocking realtors in any way, when you get to a short sale situation, that's defined by somebody who owes more money than the house is worth. But there are often more alternatives than just going straight to short sale. And one thing that people need to recognize is a successful short sale means you might not have to pay all this money, but you then have to start paying housing expenses. And I might be able to help you avoid that for an extended period of time while you try to reassess your situation and maybe even get back in the saddle and start making the money again so you can fix the problem.
So I think what you're saying is essentially when you are underwater, if you're close to being underwater, there's more options than just automatically going into a short sale.
Correct.
There's ways to stay in the property. And I think one of the most important things that Josh said to me was that we are programmed.
Mm-hmm.
We have to pay the mortgage, we have to pay the mortgage, we have to pay the mortgage. We're not telling you not to pay the mortgage.
Right.
However, the mortgage is debt, right? It's
correct.
And there might be other debt. And
well, let me jump in there for a second.
Sure, yeah.
When times are easy, when it's flush, you can make decisions that are personal. I want that, I can afford it, I'm gonna go get it. When times are tight, you have to treat your personal financial situation as a business decision. I have X dollars per month to spend, Y dollars is what the mortgage company wants. Can I pay that? Is the one question that people ask when they're flush and they got money. But there's two questions that everybody should ask every single time. It's time to write a check for the mortgage. One is, can I? And the question is, should I?
So you're saying every time you're making that mortgage, you're writing that mortgage check, it's can I and should I?
Mm-hmm.
And have you been in situations where people have just written the check, and retrospectively they should have handled it differently?
I can tell you the worst moment in my entire professional life.
The worst moment in your entire professional life. Okay, go.
I was just starting this. I got a call from an elderly woman, and my office staff and my partner and all my associates said, you can't take any more free cases. So I said, okay, won't take any more free cases. And she called me, and her voice, you could hear that she's near tears. And she wasn't young. And she explained to me that she's about to go into foreclosure. And I asked a little bit more. And her husband died 3 years before, and I asked a little bit more. And she had breast cancer, and I asked a little bit more. And the mortgage company had convinced her to go through her savings, go through her husband's retirement plan, go through the 401k. She had nothing left. She had no Social Security of any. She probably had money during her lifetime and now had absolutely nothing. And the mortgage company had drained her of every single last penny and then filed a foreclosure complaint. And I said to her, I can't do it for free. And she burst into tears and hung up. And at 2 a.m, sometimes still, 10 years later, I wake up and I remember her voice, and I couldn't call her back, and I don't know who she was. And I wish I'd handled that differently, because I could have made a difference in her life. But that is a cautionary tale that everybody should understand. The mortgage company, no matter what they tell you, are not your friend. If they're looking to get paid, the question is, can I? Should I? Because if it doesn't make financial sense for myself and my family, you need to go talk to a professional. It doesn't have to be me, but you have to talk to a professional who understands the industry, understands money, and can help you understand how the system works, so that when you go home and talk to your wife or your husband or your kids or your uncle, whoever you make these decisions with, when you sit down and talk to them, you understand how the game is played.
Right. So basically, you're highlighting the fact that there's a lot of rules and there are a lot of laws, and everybody has their own interest, and they need to be working with somebody who's looking out after their interests. And a lot of times people don't think to do that, right? That's kind of what we're saying?
That's undeniably true, but
yeah.
I bet a lot of people come to you not yet looking to sell a house, but asking for how the process works.
Yes, we get a lot of people, how it works, yes.
And that's probably, and sometimes, the most valuable service that you could provide to anybody, even more than selling a house for maximum value.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what people should look to experts who are trusted experts to be able to answer questions.
So I'm here with Josh Denbeaux, and we're talking about foreclosures, and we're pretty much assuming that there are a bunch of people out there who are worried about the value of their home and a possible foreclosure. And you had said to me that you are seeing a huge pickup in foreclosures in the state of New Jersey. So just give me a little bit of information about that, please.
There's going to be about 20,000 foreclosures filed in the state of New Jersey alone in 2019. Just 2019, just New Jersey.
Wow.
And that's going to be caused by a lot of things. And the one thing I want...
Can I back you up for a second?
Yeah.
So 20,000, and where were we last year?
12, maybe 13.
Wow.
It's a big jump.
And is it in one price point? Is it in the luxury price point? Is it in the middle price point? Where is it?
It's every price point.
Mm-hmm.
It's every single price point. On the luxury price point, now you just explained what luxury is. I didn't know what that meant in the real estate market.
So I'll explain it to the way that we look at when we divide the market up and see and understand how each part of the market is behaving. The luxury we define really is like the top 10%. That's pretty much it.
Okay. To me, when a client comes in and sits down with me, I don't care if they're luxury market or if they're living in a four walk up in Newark. It doesn't matter. It's still human beings in pain who don't know how the system is supposed to work. And the people who are in the luxury market think they know how the financial system works, but they only know how the financial system works when it's working for them. When things start going sideways, it's very difficult to find someone to sit there and say, hey, I can still help you.
And I think what you're saying is also that these are, there's maybe some shame or some...
There shouldn't be.
And there shouldn't be, and so there's nothing wrong with reaching out and asking for help.
Particularly because in this circumstance, when you're talking about the upper market, you have a huge tax increase because of this new tax, having to do with home ownership.
Yes.
And that's eating up into the budget set aside for the home. If there's the slightest dip in income, all of a sudden there's financial concern.
Right, so let's talk about that. So once the SALT tax, once you were not allowed to write off your state and local property tax, so your real estate tax, your interest. Now you're grandfathered in with your mortgage interest. You're not, obviously, with your property tax. So in a luxury house, you could have property tax $40, $50, $60, $70, $80,000, and all of a sudden you're now out of pocket anywhere $30 to $40 to $50,000 that you literally weren't out of pocket before.
That's a tax increase for sure.
That's a tax increase, and then you're saying potentially maybe there was a shift in additional income, so maybe a reduction rather in income.
Right, but it can also not even be the income. Someone can be sitting there and saying, look, I thought my house was worth X dollars.
Right.
But it's really worth Y, and that's $500,000 or $200,000 less than my mortgage. I can afford to pay it, but should I? What are my options here?
What are your options? So what you're saying is somebody thought their house was worth one number, and it's not worth that number. And they're paying more to live in that house than they were paying before.
Right.
So now they're faced with
a business choice.
A business choice. So I'm going to add to that business choice because we deal with this all the time. I mean, this is the world.
Right, but it's a business choice on an exquisitely personal situation. Okay. And that is a very difficult, mind-bending thing for people to deal with.
Right. So what would you suggest they do?
Well, I mean, every case is so different. There's only one commonality, which is finding out how the system works and what your options really are.
Right.
And you need two people for that. You need an honest realtor and you need an honest attorney. And
that was an oxymoron.
I know.
I'm only kidding.
Well, we have the honest attorney meeting. We have the honest attorney meeting once a year. All four of us generally attend.
Yeah, so I think you're right with that. So, and does somebody need this? Does this particular seller need to be in distress to knock on your door and ask, what are my options?
Everybody who contacts me is in some distress or another, whether they're running out of money or the property isn't worth the financial investment. even if they have the money. That's still extremely distressing.
So hold on, that's a very valid point. So now we're talking about somebody who you can afford it. You can keep paying your mortgage, you can keep paying your taxes, you can afford it. But you're now in a situation where, you know, the nest egg is worth, way less money. And here I'm going to bring this on. And where you thought you were going is worth more money.
Say what do you mean by that?
Because the pressure on the upper market is also happening because there's not enough opening price point inventory.
Okay.
And the opening price point inventory is typically going to be for a first time buyer, but it's also going to be for downsizers. So these people up here are trying to go here. So they're getting killed up here and in a pricing war for down here.
Wow.
So it's a bit of a, I'm not going to curse, but it's a bit of a cluster, right? So they're faced with, you know, what do we do? Do we rent? Do we buy? Do we send? And these are not all questions for you or for me at this point, but I'm wondering, is all of that a recipe for, you know, knocking on your door?
It's for knocking on any expert's door associated with any of their problems.
Yeah.
Who's going to tell them the truth? I'm one of them. You're one of them. There are people out there who can give you, meaning the consumer, honest to God, true information.
So I'm going to go into this and I'm going to say, okay, you're a household, we backed up. We were talking about the fact that there's going to be a tremendous amount of foreclosures, more than we've seen, more than double than what there was last year in the state of New Jersey.
Not more than double, but it's a lot more.
A lot more, okay. And it's really across all income levels.
I believe so.
And we can't really, you know, we don't really know exactly why. There may be bits and pieces of it, but nonetheless, they're going to be in a lot of foreclosure situations. And probably the tax situation has to be a big part of it because all of a sudden you're having to pay more money and that's
Let me
it.
throw it, for instance, out.
Sure.
Let's work on your scenario where you have someone in the luxury market whose kid just went to school. Okay?
So you're saying an empty nester maybe whose kid is now in college, okay?
An empty nester. And who all of a sudden is sitting in really, really big, really, really nice house that's $350,000 underwater. You can afford to make the payment, but who wants to?
So hold on a second. Go back to this. It's $350,000 underwater. Go back. Let's just say these people have probably been in their homes over 20 years.
Oh, sure.
So how are you $350,000 underwater if you bought the house? So talk about that relationship. They bought it 20 years ago for less money, and yet can they still be underwater today?
Of course, it depends on what their mortgage refinancing history is. If you bought the house 20 years ago and you never refinanced, you're in pretty good shape. Maybe not as good shape as you were before the tax hit, and you wish you'd sold then, but you're in fine position.
Right.
But I don't know what percentage of people out there, but if you're one of those people, you did good. But if you're not, if you had to borrow money because somebody got sick, because you needed to pay for college, because.
So you're saying if somebody was into a long-term loan and they went and they took equity out on their house, they took an equity loan out.
Sure.
Okay.
Or they refinanced to take more money out for any legitimate reason you want.
Okay.
And then the market didn't do what anybody expected it to do because nobody thought the government was going to lose its mind. Then you end up in a situation where you are in a financially bad investment. And what I ask people to do, especially businessmen who are used to making big trades on Wall Street, is to say, would you buy that?
You know, I do the same thing when I have a decent number for the house,
right?
And the sellers are struggling with what's fair, and I say, as a business decision, if this was a stock, if this was a bond,
right?
I'm like, what would you do? Objectively, would you leave all your eggs in this one basket, you know, or would you want to get out and diversify?
To the same point, though, emotional attachment has value. And I don't ever want to diminish that for anybody.
But I'm telling you, I hear you, but the writing on the wall is so there in so many instances, and when you can't take the emotional piece out to make a smart business decision with that amount of money, and I'm not saying I'm right or wrong with what the decision is, but when you have that emotional attachment, it's dangerous.
It's extremely dangerous.
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous, but I don't ever say to somebody, your emotional detachment decision is wrong. I can say it's not the one I would do, but I don't tell them it's wrong because it's not mine. Here's what I do. I quantify it. Because it's easy to say, I'm willing to keep this house because I love it. Are you willing to keep this house because you love it at an extra $3,500 a month? Or for an extra $350,000 loss? Or for an extra $30,000 a year that you have to pay? Is it worth it to you? Because if it is, keep it. But if it's maybe not, then you need to start really changing the way you think about things. I sat down for the video, and I get approached by a lot of experts, a lot of professionals, mortgage bankers, realtors. This is the first video I've done with any of them. And Stacy impressed me because she talked to me, we had a mutual client. She spoke to me about a question. I answered the question. I asked her a question, and she said it doesn't really make sense for them to sell the house right now. And I stopped. She's maybe the first realtor to ever say that to me. She doesn't make money not selling houses. That's when I started paying attention. And I gotta tell you, I'm here because this lady impressed me.
So I want to thank Josh Denbeaux for being here with me. Thank you so much, Josh.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. We really did cover a lot of very serious topics, and I'm sure that there's some people out there that may have some questions. So send us an email, info@stacyexer.com, or reach out directly to Josh. And it can be something where we can come back and, talk about it again on another video also.
Or just answer questions that people contact either one of us with.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank you.
it. So I want to say thank you for watching our video blog, and we would love to feature you, your business. If you have something relevant to our client base, give us a shout out, info@stacyexer.com, and we would love to do something with you on video. Thanks so much for watching.